All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us for our program. My name is Helen Liu, and I'm the Programming and Partnerships Manager at Cary Library. Before we begin, I'd like to thank the Cary Library Foundation. Their support enables us to bring programs like tonight's event to you. This program will be recorded and will be posted to the library's YouTube channel. If you have any questions for Gabrielle, please enter them into the Q&A or chat. Now I'd like to introduce our speaker. Gabrielle Esposito holds a degree in creative writing from SUNY Geneseo. Her short stories have appeared in esteemed publications such as the Manhattanville Review, 34th Parallel, and Gandy Dancer, among others. Notably, her story, The Way Home, earned second place in the 2023 Doro Boehme Fiction Editors Prize and was nominated for the 2024 Best American Short Stories Anthology. In addition to her writing, Gabrielle is a library director based in the Hudson Valley region of New York. She dedicates her free time to teaching writing workshops at local libraries and editing manuscripts for talented authors. This program is made possible, as I said, by the generous donors to the Cary Library Foundation. And so now I'd like to pass the mic to Gabrielle.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Helen, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on this Thursday evening. I so appreciate you being here and all your time, and of course to Cary Library for hosting this event. It's really wonderful that we get to do this through Zoom so that we can kind of bridge the distance and connect tonight. So this is Unlock Your Memory. It's a memoir-based workshop, as you know. Like Helen said, I'm Gabrielle Esposito. That's me on a really great hair day. I'm a short story author, editor, and writing instructor. I'm the library director, of course, again located in New York. And I'm very excited to get started with you here tonight. This is one of my favorite workshops to teach. So what are we going to be doing tonight? We're going to talk about why writing memoir is challenging. I think it's one of the hardest genres to write because it is so personal to us, right? The context and the things that we're writing down. Sometimes we never tell them to anyone at all, and so they're very personal to us. We'll talk about how memory actually works and how to kind of jog our memories. We'll define what memoir really is. We'll talk about tools for shaping personal narrative. And we are going to be doing some writing tonight. So now is a great time to grab a pen to paper if you want that hand to brain connection. I always advocate for that. Or, if you just want to work on your laptop, this is your writing time. So please use it as you see fit. All right. So let's jump right in. Let's kind of talk a little bit about why this genre is sometimes so tricky to write. Memory, of course, as we know, is fragmented. It's non-linear. So human memory is built in pieces. It's built in these flashes, these sensations, these moments that stay with us for reasons we don't necessarily always understand. You don't need a full chronology to write memoir. The fragments themselves are the material. I believe that we kind of hold two selves at once. So memoir kind of requires connecting with who you were then, with who you are now. And that can feel really strange, right? Because you're stepping back into an earlier version of yourself while bringing your present perspective along with you. It can be really challenging to kind of balance those two selves. Writing about real life often feels really vulnerable. So even small memories can carry emotional weight, right? And when we put them on the page, we're looking at them much more directly than we did when we lived them. And that vulnerability is a sign that you're touching something true, but it can still be difficult to kind of connect with that material. Stories can feel too big or not important enough, so many people worry that nothing in their life is interesting enough to write about or that their stories are too big or too overwhelming to approach. But memoir, the great thing about it is that it thrives on small, specific human moments. So the scale of the event does not determine the value of the story. It's the emotional truth, again, that we said described was a little hard to touch sometimes. That really is what makes memoir sing. So why do we do this thing? Memoir kind of helps us find meaning in our experiences, right? So writing gives shape and language to things that once perhaps felt confusing or unresolved. So through the act of writing tonight, we often kind of begin to understand the experience itself in a new way. We want to try to crystallize those moments as well before they fade, right? Memory shifts over time. By writing, you're preserving not just what happened, but how you kind of felt and what that moment meant to you over time. So all of these really important things happen when you write memoir, despite it being really difficult. So, what is memoir? A true story told using literary tools is basically what memoir is. And those tools are kind of indicative of what we use in fiction, right? So there's scene, there's pacing, there's dialogue, and of course those vivid details, right? These are not embellishments, they are tools that help you communicate the truth clearly and powerfully. It's usually, again, a conversation between the past and the present. So those two selves that we balance in memoir. So we have the two voices, right? The person who lived the moment and the person who is interpreting it now. And that dual perspective creates depth and allows you to both show your experience and show your insight, all the things that you learned from having gone through that experience. It is also a shaped narrative focused on meeting. And again, it's not chronological necessarily. So, memoir doesn't need to follow any kind of strict timeline. It means that you can zoom in and out into points of your life. You choose the moments that best explore the question or theme that you're interested in, which means that meaning, not sequence, drives the structure of your piece. A curated set of moments revealing something larger is also what memoir is all about. So the memories you include become a lens. Each one points towards a larger idea. Something about identity, belonging, family, or personal change all show up in memoirs. And the meaning emerges from the moments you choose and the connections that you make between them. If you have any questions thus far, feel free to put them in the chat. I promise I'll address them. So how does memory work? If we're trying to kind of mine for memories, for memoirs, how do we kind of connect with the memories that we have in our minds? Memory is stored in sensations. So often what we remember first isn't the event, but it's kind of more textural, right? So it's the color of the room, the way the air felt, the smell in the background. These sensory anchors are incredibly useful in memoir because they pull the reader directly into the moment and also kind of jogs your memory, right? If you're trying to kind of remember. It's also stored in emotions. We remember what mattered emotionally to us in the moment, even if we don't remember every detail surrounding it, right? So if a memory keeps returning over and over and over again to our minds, it's usually because an emotion is attached to it. And emotion is really your entry point into the story. It's also, of course, stored in images and objects. So a single image, the pattern on a shirt, a certain look on someone's face can unlock entire scenes in your memory. And objects often carry emotional weight as well and can kind of act as gateways into those deeper memories that we sometimes don't see quite at the surface. Memory is not stored kind of as a timeline, right? So this means that you don't have to worry if the sequence of the memories are blurry, right? Memoir is not about perfect recall. It's about honest recall, honesty, speaking your truth. So you're capturing the truth of your experience, not reporting facts for a history book, right? We have a little bit more, we can be a little bit more interpretive with the way that things are appearing as we kind of sift through our memories, especially tonight. So, a few things about memoir. So, it's triggered by those sensory details, right? So, when you describe the light, the air, or a specific sound, more memories begin to surface. You can almost think of the memories in your mind kind of all webbed together. They're all touching each other, they're all kind of intersected together. And as you kind of begin to tug on that sensory thread, right? Other things begin to crop up. For me, a huge sensory detail, right, is the smell of a crayon box. For some reason, that brings back all of my elementary school memories. Don't ask me why, but they're all interwoven and they seem to be connected to the smell of a crayon. So this is kind of why starting with physical detail is so effective, right? Your brain begins filling in the rest when you give yourself that sensory detail, right? Memory is emotional, it's not factual. So, two people can experience the same event and remember things completely differently. I like to use the memory of my brothers and my parents building a house. So, my parents um, were in the midst of building this house, and I remember I was very upset to move, right? So I remember, it not being a great experience because there was no grass where my parents were living because they were building the house. So it was just this huge muddy field. And I thought it was, the smell of the earth really dampened my mood and I wasn't loving it. And my brothers were having the best time of their lives because they're young and they love to play in the mud. So two very different experiences and two very different emotional outcomes with that, right? So that doesn't mean that either version is wrong. It means that you're remembering the part that mattered to you, right? I was upset to leave where we were currently living. My brothers were excited to play in the mud and whatever that meant for a new beginning, right? So memoir is based on that emotional truth. Memory reveals itself when you write around it. So if you feel stuck tonight, right, don't try to write the central moment first. You can kind of describe the edges of the memory. So the room, the temperature, the clothes, the conversation before. A sideways approach kind of helps the core memory rise to the surface naturally. So we've got the heart of a memoir as well. So kind of the stuff that a memoir is made out of. So we have scene, which is one of the literary techniques that we use when we're writing memoir. Scene places the reader inside the moment, and it uses sensory detail that we kind of talked about, movement and specificity to let the reader experience the memory alongside you. It's also about reflection, why the memory matters, why it keeps coming up for you. Reflection is your present day understanding. So, again, we've got the two selves. We've got our past self and we have our present day self kind of looking in on the memory. And that's the insight that you couldn't have had in the moment. This is what separates memoir from just journaling, right? Reflection gives the story its meaning. And we have the theme, so what the story is really about. So, theme is the deeper question or idea underneath your memories. That's kind of the heartbeat of the story. So, you often discover your theme by noticing what memories keep resurfacing, and theme is the connective tissue that kind of turns individual scenes into a unified piece when you're writing. Some common memoir themes that might come up for you tonight. You can just take these with a grain of salt. They're not what you have to write about. We have coming of age, right? Of course, these stories explore the moments that shaped you, the turning points between childhood and adulthood, loss and grief. These pieces examine what it means to lose someone or something and how that loss reshaped your identity or understanding of life. Grief stories are not just about sorrow, they're about love, memory, and transformation. Identity, these stories dig into questions like who am I? Where do I belong? What parts of myself did I inherit? And what parts did I choose? Identity memoir often connects personal experience to larger cultural or familial forces if you want to take it a step further. Family, always lots to write about with family. Family explores relationships, patterns, roles, and the ways families teach, wound, and shape us. And these themes resonate widely because family, in whatever form, is often our first teacher. Belonging, these memoirs examine the desire to feel accepted or understood. They explore the moments when you felt inside or outside a group, a place, or even yourself. Change or transformation, these pieces focus on moments when something shifted, a realization, a decision, a rupture, whatever that shift was. They look at cause and effect, so who you were before and who you became after. And of course, love in its very many forms. It's not just romantic love that you could decide to focus on. It's the love of friendship, family, caretaking, or self. And these stories highlight connection and vulnerability, and they often capture universal emotional truths. So again, you don't have to pick any of these themes tonight, but often your theme kind of reveals itself simply by noticing the memories that won't leave you alone. Any questions before we jump into our writing exercises for the evening? All right, so let's talk about the flashbulb. So, this is our first writing exercise. I'd like you to write down three memories that have returned to you again and again over the years, the days, the weeks, whatever it is. These could be vivid, confusing, joyful, painful, or simply persistent. The repetition is really what matters. Repeated memories kind of often point towards your strongest material. So I'd like you to kind of, once you've written down those memories, ask what emotion sits at the center And what question does the memory raise about who you were? So we're going to do this writing exercise for about 10 to 15 minutes. Um, I'll just keep an eye on the clock and kind of give you a 2-minute warning. This is a self-paced writing exercise, so kind of move through the three memories and the questions on your own, and we'll return together at the top of the 10 to 15. I'm going to turn off my screen and my microphone because I'll be writing alongside you, but please, if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat and I'll hop on and answer them. All right, here we go. Good luck. All right. So just try to finish up your work. If you haven't finished up and you want to return to it in the next part of the writing exercise, not a big deal. This is your writing time. All right. For the second part, we're going to attempt to enter the memory sideways, right? So we kind of talked about how that might be an easier way to interact with kind of the idea or the memory that's kind of circling. So out of the three memories, choose one and begin to write around it. So I'd like you to focus on the sensory details, right? So the temperature, the lighting, the clothes, the sounds, anything that isn't necessarily the main event. Describing the settings usually unlocks details that you didn't realize you still remembered. So let the memory kind of unfold on its own. You're not forcing the moment, you're just kind of inviting it. There's a list there for you to focus on if you'd like: the weather, the sound, the texture, one object that might be really permanent in your memory, a physical sensation, whatever it is that you can kind of use to ground yourself before moving forward. So again, we're just kind of choosing one memory and entering it sideways. You can do this as a list if you'd like. It doesn't necessarily have to be, paragraphs long. Whatever feels the most accessible for you tonight is what I'd like you to focus on. We're going to do another 10 minutes on the clock for this, and I will give you a 2-minute warning, and I will see you at the top of the 10. All right, and that's the top of the 10 minutes. Again, you can just stop mid-sentence if you'd like to return to the memory later. Not a big deal. This is your writing time. We'll just move into the next part of the exercise, which is to try to find the meaning thread. So in about 2 to 3 paragraphs, whatever length that kind of means to you, um, try to meditate on these questions of why this memory matters now, how you changed because of it, and what truth or question this memory carries for you. So this is a short reflection on the memory. We kind of, tugged on the memory thread a little bit and just tried to enter it a little bit sideways. Now we're going to kind of reflect on it, and this kind of becomes the beginning of your piece's deeper layer. So the insight that distinguishes our memoir essay from just recounting. So again, we're just writing 2 to 3 paragraphs of why this memory matters now, how you changed because of it, and what truth or question the memory carries. You can choose to write a paragraph for each of these questions. Again, you can choose to do bullet points or kind of meld all the questions together, whatever works for you. We're going to put about 10 minutes on the clock. I'll give you a 2-minute warning, and I will see you at the top of the 10. All right, I'm going to bring you back for the final part of our writing exercise. We're going to kind of combine everything that we've been working on to a brief scene, a short scene. So I'd like you to try to start with a sensory detail to ground us, maybe let the moment unfold naturally, and kind of end with one line of reflection that perhaps hints at why the moment stayed with you. That's a very specific roadmap to write your scene. You can just try to see what flows naturally. So we're beginning in the moment in media res. We're using those sensory details that we kind of mined from before. Perhaps it includes one line of reflection, right? Trying to meld those two selves together, and perhaps end with a hint of what this moment means to you now. We are going to do 15 minutes for this writing exercise because it is going to be a little bit more scene intensive. I'd really like to give you a good stretch of time to kind of build your memory up to the best of its ability. So again, we're just writing a short scene. You can start with a sensory detail. You can let the moment unfold naturally, end with a line of reflection, just trying to move intuitively through the writing process. So again, 15 minutes on the clock. I will give you a 2-minute warning, and then we will reconvene. I will see you then. All right, and before we kind of move on, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the fact that you've done over 40 minutes of writing, which is absolutely incredible, right? When do we actually ever get the chance to kind of explore our thoughts as so in depth as we did this evening? Take a moment, just shake out your hands really quick. Just kind of roll them around, just kind of shake out, all of the deep thoughts that we kind of done, and hopefully we can end on a kind of lighthearted note. Um, while I'm speaking, feel free to kind of drop into the chat what it kind of felt like to connect with your memories, moving through the writing exercises, and perhaps what came up for you this evening, as little or as much as you'd like to share. Just some final thoughts, right? Memory doesn't require, you to really go through extraordinary events. There's a wonderful quote. The author is escaping my my mind. But she says, if you've survived childhood, you have endless things to write about. Or just surviving life really is enough to kind of practice a memoir, because it requires that attention, right? It requires that attention to emotion, to detail, and to kind of what shaped you. So if a memory keeps resurfacing for you, after this workshop, it's trying to tell you something, right? Writing is how we listen and how we record and how we kind of crystallize, again, those really important memories. So you've already begun the work kind of simply by remembering with intention. I'll hang out here for a moment. That's the end of my presentation and my contact information there. If you have any questions that kind of come up, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to talk about writing, or again, any questions that you might have. I don't see anybody in the chat who's kind of responded to that question of kind of how this moving through these memories tonight felt. But we'll just hang out here for just kind of a quiet moment and see if anything hops up.
And while we're having that quiet moment, I just wanted to share that we have a Cary Libraries Writers Group. The next meeting is Friday, March 13th at 1 p.m. at the Community Center. And we also have another program with Gabrielle on March 31st at 7 p.m. It's another Zoom program on publishing pathways. I'll enter all of that in chat so that you could register for it. And it looks
Awesome.
like
Yeah.
there's some comments in the chat.
Yeah, I see emotional, hard work, but also liberating. Yeah, I think that is, for all the reasons that you stated, it's exactly what makes memoir so difficult. I see painful writing about an incident. Yeah, absolutely, that I chose to expand on tonight. Cues with sensations, emotions, and the meaning were really helpful. Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, it sounds like you did some really wonderful groundwork tonight, just kind of exploring that memory a little bit more. And it's really brave as well to kind of, delve a little bit deeper into these memories, especially when we may not, maybe we're not expecting to explore them. I always say, especially during this workshop, that you just never know what's going to come up when you sit down to write. So it sounds like some really good groundwork was laid tonight. Um, Absolutely. Yeah, it truly is a gift to kind of go into these memories. It's a wonderful thing that we all could kind of, reconnect with our past selves and explore them. remembered more and more details. I found a meaning in the memory. Absolutely, yeah. I'm so glad that as you kind of tugged that memory thread, more and more things were kind of coming up for you. It's a really nice way to kind of revisit the past, right? And to kind of show our past selves perhaps some grace, and just connect with who we were back then. It can be a really cathartic moment to write in our memories, yeah, in our memoirs. Absolutely. Any final thoughts? I don't want to miss anyone. All right, wonderful. Well, as Helen said, we've got publishing pathway. Oop, I see two more. Absolutely. Yeah, so I'll be back March 31st talking about publishing. It's a more lecture intensive kind of um, presentation. We'll be talking about different avenues that you can, allow your writing to shine. There's so many different ways to put your writing out there, which is really exciting. So and if this was enjoyable, check out that writers group as well. So yeah, thank you so much. It was wonderful to write with you tonight.
Thank you so much, Gabrielle, for a wonderful workshop. And thank you all for joining us tonight.
Awesome. Have a wonderful night, everyone.